Right, for this video I'll have a look at the reducing branch. So let's just have a quick look at the drawing. Material 6 and 10 millimeter. So from that I'm assuming the 10 mil is on 3 flanges here and the 6 mil is the actual branch and the trunk there. You can see it's 1,000 long and then there's a 10 mil flange either side. So I'm going to assume that the pipe is welded on top of the flange and it's not inside it. And we have a little bit of an offset here of 25. So the way I'm going to start with this one, same as always, new sheet metal. I'm going to start a sketch and I'm just going to draw like a side profile of it out of construction lines. So I'll turn on construction line there and I'm just going to draw a line here. I'm going to make sure it's vertical and make sure it's horizontal to the origin point there. Now I'm going to give it a length of 1,000 and I am also going to draw a line either side like this, and I'm just using this so I can do my planes off of them. I'm just going to make sure that construction lines are joint horizontally and vertically. So you can see that's constrained to the middle there, it's gone black, and I'll just make sure this one's doing its job too. Yep. Now I'm just going to make these equal because they are the same size. And there's a basic side view. So that's just the main length, and imagine a axis going up and down here. Now I'm going to come off of that one a wee bit and make a new plane 25mm off the old one. So I'll go to new plane, offset from plane, find the one I drew on, that one there, 25mm. Now I'm going to start a sketch on this, and I am going to project some of these geometries onto this face, so that one and that one. And we can see from the picture we've got a 60 degrees center line to center line, and the start is 439 off the end. So I will do a 60-degree line. I'll just guess it for now. 439 it says. And 60 degrees. And we'll have another quick look at that, and the length we've got is 522. So we'll go 522. Alright, and I can see I've drawn it as a solid line. I just want that as a center line, as a construction line. So what I'm going to do is click on it and just highlight the construction line there. And the next thing I'm going to do is draw a line across for the end of it here. And I'm going to constrain that to there. I'm going to make sure it's perpendicular to this one. And I'm going to dimension it as well. So I'll just check what dimension we had there. We had a 150 ID. So I'll just go with the ID. And I've done the same thing again. I forgot to turn construction line on, so I'll just change that to construction. And there we go. So now I can build all my faces in the correct way. So I'm going to turn this work plane off, and I'm going to turn the original one back on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a bunch of planes at perpendicular to where I need, so I can draw on them. I'm just going to also make a few points, just to make my life a bit easier. These may or may not come in handy. I may not use all of them, but it's always handy to have them there just in case I do need them. One more thing I'm actually going to do is I've just realised I've forgotten to do it. Is I'm going to go back to that second sketch I did, and I'm going to edit that. And I'm just going to draw a construction line along the bottom as well. And I'll make sure that's constrained to the center, to the end of that line, center to the end. And I'll make sure it's equal to the top one. And I'll also just have a look, see what's going on there. And it must be parallel to that end one as well. Now I'll do a couple more points there just to make it easier when I need to do the other drawings. Right, I will turn off the plane here. Now I'm going to do a bunch of perpendicular planes. So I'm going to draw my faces on everything. So angle to plane around edge. I'm going to call that the edge. And angle to this plane. It should go 90 degrees automatically, which is great. Same again. Same again. And one more. So now I have all my planes that I'm going to need. What I'm going to do is draw the circles on them. So I'll start a sketch up here, and I'll just rotate it a little bit, and I'll just project the geometry. So I'll project these points here, do a circle, and it's all gone black, so it's all constrained. Finish that sketch. I'll start a sketch on this one, and I'll just rotate it out the way a little bit. Same thing again, project the geometry. And there should be a line up here somewhere. There it is. So we had that's a 150 ID, that pipe that's coming off the side, and the other one is a 200 ID. So let me just do this, make sure we getting everything right. Just rotate around a little bit. Same thing again. Project the center. Project the either point, either end of that line there. And something doesn't quite look right about that. I'm not too sure. But what I can do is I'll just draw a circle and I'll just give it a size. So we had 200. So this is all ID on the side. So that's worked fine. For some reason this line isn't exactly where I was expecting it, but as long as the center's in the right place, that's good. And it must be, yep, so it's meeting there. I'll finish that sketch and I'll do one last sketch over here. I'm just going to rotate it a bit so I can see where I'm going. Got the center line there. I'll project that point and I'll just type in 200 here. Right, so now I have all the like the faces of everything. So what I will do is I will actually go around and I'll just turn a few things off to make it a bit easier to see. Now, I can see my points here. They're not quite where I wanted them. I may have forgotten to give that line a dimension. So I'm going to go back and edit the sketch and figure out why it's not really where I want it to be, which I can tell right now I haven't dimensioned it. And it's not quite central. So I'm going to find the middle of that line and pull that up. Same here. And that makes a bit more sense. So you see all my work points will move with me. So there it is there. And there it is there. These 3 work points I didn't actually want. So I'm just going to hover over there and find which ones they are. There's one. I'll delete that. There's another one. And I think that's the last one I don't want. Right, so we've got all the faces of everything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the sheet metal defaults and I am going to untick this, and I believe it said 6mm. I'll just quickly check that. 6mm. What I'll do is I'll save this as a, I'll call it a skeleton. So, 2 main parts I need to make for this one. Remembering these are all ID, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a lofted flange from here to here. We're going to go smooth format and make sure it goes to the outside because we're talking about inside diameters this time. So that's looking good. Go OK. And this one I am going to tell it to cut. And I'll see if I can pick up on that sketch. Tell it where to cut to. So no, I can't. So what I'll just back out of there a wee bit and I'll turn on the plane that the sketch is on. That one there. I'll come up to cut and I will get it to. Now that I think about it, just need to do one more thing. So I'm going to go up to the sketch, find out where it is. Actually, no, I don't need to. I was just thinking about the thickness there, but that's fine. And we'll go to so there we go. We've cut to that plane there, and that's our hole. Right, so now I'll just turn a few things off. Turn all these off. Most of these off. I do want one on the end. I will keep work point 10 on. And just go around and turn everything off to make it easier to see. Right, so what I'm going to do is I will rotate this around. Yep, still got some things on here, so I'll just turn these off quickly. Now see how this points on the inside, so I want it on the outside. So what I'll do is I will just start a sketch here, and I'll project the geometry of the outside. I'll do a line and construction just there to the center. That's fine. And I'll put a point on the outside there. So if I hover around the outside, it sort of picks up on that point there. Now what I can do is I can put a rip. So I've decided the seam's going to go along the bottom. So it'll be a full length weld there. It doesn't say anything otherwise on the drawing as far as I can tell. Nope, so grab that outside and that point there. And once again, 0.1, just to make it a little tiny split, so it's not a big gap that we have to fill with weld or whatever. Turn off these work points and all other things I don't need, so I've just got to find where they are. There's work point 10. So I think everything's turned off now. And let's collapse that up. Go create a flat pattern, and there's our flat pattern. So this hole in this pipe here, that's a 150 diameter ID going into it. So I've just done that with the assumption that the branch will sit on top of it and it'll be welded around the outside. You could have done it 162 into there, then the branch could have come in and then been welded in there. Doesn't really matter. That's just how I've interpreted the drawing. So I'll save this as the trunk. So we've got the trunk there. Right, I'm just going to collapse that. Close this. Open the skeleton up again. Now I'm going to do the branch. So I'll come to lofted flange and smooth output to the outside, as we're talking about IDs here. Now, what I have to do here is I need to remember I have done the hole as ID, so I need to actually cut this shape right across the OD of this bottom bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a new sketch on that original plane, And I don't need to get too carried away here. All I need to do is do a rectangle. And I'll just give it the dimension of the main branch. The main pipe is 200 plus 6 mil. So half of that will be 106, as it should be 212, counting the metal thicknesses here. And I'm just going to vertically constrain that to this point here. Give this a dimension. This really doesn't matter. I don't have to draw the whole pipe. And you can see it says still 2 dimensions needed. So let's have a quick look. So it doesn't know that it's supposed to be horizontal yet. So I'll grab a horizontal. Grab that horizontal again. Go there to that origin point. And we'll go vertical to the origin point as well. Right, so I'll finish that off. Now I'm just going to do go into 3D model. Just going to do a revolve. So where the pipe was going to be. So I'll select that profile. It's already gone over to axis. Select that bottom part there as axis. And I'm going to do that as a cut. Just like that. So now we have that shape sorted. So I'm just going to go turn off a whole bunch of points and stuff here. Tidy it up a little bit. Turn off these sketches. And I'm just going to do a new sketch on the end here. Now this is just me deciding where I'm going to put my seam, so I'll project the geometry, and I think the seam would be best on the short side of it, just a bit less welding. So draw a line, make sure it's a construction line, there to the outside. Finish that off, and I'll put a point on there. I'll zoom in a wee bit so you can see it. Very hard to see, but it does pick up on that very lightly. Now I'll go back to the sheet metal space and rip this. Once again 0.1, so it's just a tiny wee gap. And I'll just make sure I've turned everything off but the actual thing itself. So there we have this bit. You can see from the bottom that shape there will perfectly match the top cutout on the other piece. So let's go back to home view, and before we exit we'll create a flat pattern. So it's an interesting flat pattern. That's good. I'm just going to collapse everything down, and I'll make sure I save this as the branch. Now what we've got left to do is draw some flanges. So close out of this again, and I will go to the skeleton. And one thing I've got to do is all these flanges are 10 mil, so I'm going to change this from 6 to 10. Now what I'm going to do here is I am going to start a sketch, and I'm going to find the planes that these spigots I've drawn are on. So there's that one. I'm going to draw I'm going to project the point here, and I'm going to draw circle, and we've got on the drawing it's got a 200 OD, so I'll go 200, it's got a 150 ID, so I'll just put that back in where it was, 150, and I'll finish that and turn that into a face. So I want it to come upwards, so that's going the wrong way. Take it around the other way, apply, and close out of that. So right now I'm just going to do a bit of tidying up. There's a bit too much going on, it's a bit confusing to look at. So there's our flange here, and we've got 6 8mm holes at a PCD of 180. So I'm going to start a sketch on this, and I'm just going to draw one hole. I'm going to draw it vertically. So I'll just check this. Oops, I just got to project the geometry of the circle here. Now I'll draw it vertically to the circle, so vertical. So that's not what I wanted, so I'll go back horizontal, so it's round on its side. So I'll go horizontal and 180 PCD, so half of that is 90. The diameter is 8, and I'll finish it there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go cut that hole, just like that, and I'll do a circular pattern of that hole. And it's already come up with 6, so it should work out perfectly. So there's the flange. If I collapse everything there, here it is. So it's already a flat pattern as it is by itself. What you could possibly do with this one is when you go to plot it on the paper space, because it's in the orientation of the entire branch, it's not going to be easy to put an easy view on it. So I would just do this, say to start a new sketch, and then set current view as top. So that's now the top view. Just go finish sketch. So I haven't drawn anything. I will just delete that one because it's not doing anything. I just used that to bring that face the right way around. So we have the spigot there, the flange. So I'll save that as a small flange, possibly. Sounds good. Now, what I'm going to do is slightly different for the last bit. I am going to draw a new, and I'll do a sheet metal. So now I'm looking at the end flange, so I'm going to draw a sketch on any old plane, draw a circle. So we have what looks to be a 300 OD flange, if I look at the drawing. And inside is going to be that 200. So I'm just assuming the pipe and the branch sitting on top of this and then welded on top. So I'll finish that. I'll come up to sheet metal defaults here, and I will put in 10 millimeters. And then I'll turn this into a face. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. Close that. Now I'll just draw one hole, so I'll start another sketch on here. So I could have drawn the holes in on the original sketch. It wouldn't have really mattered what way I'd done it. This is probably the slightly slower way, but it's just what I'm doing at the moment. Right, so I'm going to make sure that the center of that is vertical, and PCD was of this one is, looking at the drawing, it's a 260 PCD. So I'll go 130. And the hole size is an 8mm. So 8. Finish that sketch there, and I will cut one hole out. Just back up there, I touched something by mistake. Yep, zoom in, cut, okay. Now I'm going to circular pattern that, so I'll go here, around this here, and we have 6 holes again, so it's picked up on 6. There we go, so we've got the end flange. So there's going to be 2 of these. I'll call it large flange. Righto, so I'll close out of that. Now we just come to the assembly. So new assembly file. I will place the main tube, the trunk as I've called it. And I will come over here and put the visual style to shaded with edges to make things a bit easier to see. So that's our home view currently. So I'm just going to rotate it around and pick the same view as what we've got on the Competenz drawing. So we've got this view here. So I'll right click this home symbol. Oh, it moved on me. Let's do that again. I'll right click up at this home one, and I will set current view as home, fit to view. Now, we've got the origin of the assembly space and the origin of the trunk. So I'm going to go to assemble, constrain, and I'm going to flush constrain those 2 origins together. So YZ to YZ, XZ to XZ, XY to XY. I'll minimize the trunk now. So it's not moving anywhere if I try and drag it. Now I'll place the branch in there. And I'll just expand the origin of the branch. Do the same thing. Flush constraint. And just collapse everything in there. Now time to put the flanges on, so I'll place the small flange. So I have drawn the small flange with all the origins the same as the original drawing. So I'm just going to constrain that with origins. So I'll go YZ to YZ, flush of course, XZ, XY. Right, so the flange is just sitting on the end there, which is good. Now, I'm going to do something slightly different to how I've been doing it so far. This is just a bit of exercise in learning how to use your constraints. So I'm going to turn this plane on. As you can see, it's down the middle of the trunk there. And I am going to place the large flange. So I'll put one there and one over there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain the face to the face as a mate, not flush. Then I'm going to constrain it along the axes, like so. And I'm going to back out a little bit, and I'm going to check what one I've got, large flange 1. I'm going to I'm going to turn on the YZ plane on this one. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain that to that as a flush. Now it can't rotate. So then I'll come back, turn that back off, and do the same thing on the other end. So rotate that around. We're going to constrain that face to the end axis of this, along the axis of this. I'll turn the origin plane on, so we'll constrain that to this. I'll go flush, apply. So now it's all joined together. I just need to go around, turn a few things off, collapse a few things, and home view. So there's home view, there's your front view, etc. So it's where I want it to be. I'll just have a quick look at it. I'll go over to view here and put it into wireframe. So now you can see the flange just butts onto the end there. Same here, it's butting onto the end, and you can see how this thing mates. So that's the actual hole, that in bit, and the other bit's just sitting on top, so you'd weld around there. Right, so I'll save that one. We'll call this it's the reducing branch, isn't it? And see how the view's gone back again. Another thing to note is if you do need the patterns as DXF, as I'll double click this bit, go to the flat pattern, and you can see how it's slightly different either side. So you'd need to grind it, potentially, if you were going to fit that on there. But we can just grab this pattern, right click it, and export face as. And here we can save as a DXF, so that'll save that face as a DXF. So that's what we want. And I'm just going to collapse everything under here. And save it. And that's it. So that's the reducing branch.